Hi students, welcome to this session. Today's topic is construction management and safety engineering, and today's presenter is Sabu NJ. I welcome sir for today's presentation. Sir.
Okay, thank you, madam. Good morning, my dear students. I hope that all of you or your studies in this semesters are going very well. I think then you have become more experienced in handling of this type of the online classes. Then fortunately or unfortunately, then you have got the one of the skills then which are required for the any engineer. Okay. Yes. Today our class as a class number 3 on this particular course of construction management and safety engineering. Then we have discussed many points regarding the basic concept and the principles of the management, and also some factors involved in the construction management, etc. Then specifically, there were some discussion in the previous class. Those are the importance of the preliminary and construction planning. I think all of you got the idea about its the importance of the planning, and it is a foremost or the primary functions of the construction management. And as a part of this preliminary planning, or by conducting this preliminary planning, then we get some approximate plan and its cost. So then that is formed as a feasibility report. It is a brief report which is submitted to the government for convincing its necessity and utility of the project to the public or government. So, and we had some discussions about its advantages or the merits of the planning, and some steps involved in the planning process. Then another discussion was the various stages in a construction project. When we take up the construction project, then you have to identify then which are the various important stages and what activities are to be done in the various stages. Then we have already discussed in detail in that in last class. And then another discussion was on the factors affecting the productivity in the construction industry. And you have also seen that then construction industry has some peculiar features, then because it cannot be compared with the conventional industry. So for increasing its productivity increasing or that enhancing of the productivity, that is an essential requirement of any economical activity. So then the various factors have been discussed in that class, and also finally what data are to be collected for the preparation of the feasibility and the detailed project report. Then today we will discuss then as a part of this module 1 and the same course outcome that is expected from this module. It is the importance and functions of the management in construction project and various elements involved in it. So the specific outcome that will be discussed in today's class. Then there are the various types of the estimates. Then each type of the estimate has its particular purpose. Then all of you know that then we have to submit the feasibility report, and after getting the formal acceptance, then we have to prepare the detailed investigation report or the detailed project report. So then such type of the two estimates will be discussed here. There are any other type of the estimates are existed in our public work department. Then beyond that it's a discussion is beyond our syllabus. So then that is discarded. Okay, and the other thing is the purpose for the preparation of the feasibility report. It's a project report. Then these discussions were held in the previous class, so that is also discarded here. Okay, so then another thing is the importance of the financial management and fund flow in the project. Then especially or specifically our discussion is focused only for the financial management in the organization, then because it is limited with our syllabus. So then that the discussion within that the frame limits. So then that discussion will be set up in this subsequent through the subsequent slides. Okay, then other thing is a fiscal management system. It is also the financial management. Then fiscal, that it's a word. Its meaning of the word is something related to the finance, especially for the public revenues, and like a government budgets. That is the brief discussion on the procedure of for the financial management. And then other things. Then these are the very important thing. Then because before taking of any project, then two important sanctions must be obtained. Then there are those are the administrative sanction and the technical sanction. Then we will discuss in detail in this session. And then another thing is an organizational structure of the public work department and their duties and responsibility to be performed by each officers. So then we have studied another important function of the management, that is an organizing. And with the principle of that the organizing, then organizational structure or that such establishment is installed for carrying out the all public works. So then such one typical organizational chart will be discussed. So then another topic is to be covered as then different or the various categories of the establishment existed in our departments. Okay, so let us start. There are two types of the estimates. Then all of you know that. Then we have to prepare the feasibility report for convincing the public or the government about the project. And then another thing is, after getting that the formal acceptance, then we have to prepare the detailed project report. That detailed project report will show the clear picture of the project, So then in these two stages, then estimates are to be prepared. The first type of the estimate, it is a rough estimate or approximate estimate. That is called as a preliminary estimate. Then because that estimate is prepared in the preliminary or in prior to the starting of the detailed investigation or in the preparation of the detailed project report. So it is called as a preliminary estimate. It is an approximate estimate or rough estimate. Then for what purpose then this preliminary estimate is prepared? Then to study the various aspects of the project and to decide the financial commitment. I have already mentioned about this, the importance of the estimates. That means by doing the process that we can arrive at an approximate cost by considering the certain factors during the preliminary investigation. So then we can study that the various aspects. Then such aspects were discussed in the last class. Okay, then another thing is an important point in this regard. It is then this preliminary estimate is prepared from the previous information of similar construction. That means then we have the past experience for in executing some construction having the same type of the specification and comparing with the actual cost incurred for the project. Then that can be taken for the estimate purpose. Then we can adopt then three types of the approximate estimate. Then this one type of the preliminary estimate that can be worked out per unit basis. What is its meaning? Then in case of for a project proposal for a school, then high school or LP school or UP school. So then normally the government has insisted that some requirements for its construction, and its requirements are same, even or same in the same stage. So then we can easily adopt the rate on the unit basis. That means per student rate for the school. Then how many students are to be accommodated for the school for its purpose serving. Then its purpose serving is then impart the education through the school. So then we can ascertain then this much area is required or this number of the classrooms are required. So then we can easily work out for its cost estimate per unit basis. Similarly, in the case of the hospital construction per bed rate, then this is one of the examples. And then other thing is for the road construction, then that can be worked out per kilometer length basis, and then seat basis for a hall, etc. Then these are the examples for the per unit basis. Then another that is very familiar to you, that because then for our residential construction project, then the people are asked frequently or to the engineers, then how much will be the cost for our residential project. And normally that is expressed in a simple words in the per square feet basis or the square meter basis. So then residential and other buildings, then plinth area basis. And other thing is in cubic content, the special type of the some particular type of the buildings, then that is meant for the storing of the some grains, food grains, etc. So its height is very tall. And with that the peculiarity, or that then mainly that construction is mainly based on its volume or the cubic content storage. So then in this method, then another method that can be adopted as a cubic content method. Silos, example, silos or storage buildings like that. So then I think all of you have got that the idea of the preliminary estimate. Preliminary estimate is a very basic or the very preliminary estimate or an approximate or rough estimate. Then that estimate is prepared from the previous knowledge in the construction of the similar project. Then we can adopt the any three types of, then depending on its situation or the nature of the building. So then one is a per unit basis, and second is a plinth area basis. Then third one is a cubic content methods. Then by these methods, the first we have to know the how much area, in the case of the plinth area basis, how much area is required for the project. So then that can be compared with the past buildings or the similar type of the buildings. Then that cost or rate per plinth area, that is to be multiplied with the total area, then you will get the cost. Then similarly for the other two methods, then this is the very simple method for arriving for the preliminary or rough estimate. Okay, then another important estimate, then that is a detailed estimates. Detailed estimate, then the name itself implies that its meaning. Then detailed estimate, every items are to be assessed, and every items are to be assessed for its cost. So then that is a detailed estimate. Generally, the detailed estimate, it is an essential component for the detailed project report. Then you have studied in the previous class, then that is the detailed estimate along with the detailed drawing and specification. Without the detailed drawing and the specification, the detailed estimate cannot be out. Then fact in it. That is a fact in it. So the detailed estimate, then it is a process of arriving at actual cost of the project. Then from preliminary estimate, we can know the approximate cost of the rough estimate. Then that may be varied depending on its changes or with the incorporation of features in the project. So that cannot be used for the tendering process or the interesting of the contracting agency. So then before taking up the project, then this process are to be completed in the design and the planning stage, detailed planning, design and planning stage. Then we will go for the tendering procedure. So then contractors can know the actual cost of the projects, and then he can work out that the various quantities involved in the project. So then detailed estimate is prepared with the help of or after developing the detailed plan and the detailed working drawing. So then it is a process of arriving at actual cost of the project. I think you have experienced it, or that you have got that the experience in the calculating the certain quantities. Then you have studied such a course, the quantity surveying, and then I think then another subject, quantity surveying. Second is so continue with this course Okay, concurrently. So then let us look to the special features of the detailed estimative process. The first of all, then estimating quantities of the items of work included in the project. So before estimating these quantities of each item, then you have to know then what items are required for its construction of the project. That can be known from the specification and the drawings, and then you can take that the quantities from the detailed drawing, and then with the specification, then this items is required. So then that items magnitude or its quantity can be worked out by multiplying with the length, breadth, and quantity, or with other unity is to be proposed for that the item of the quantities. So then that can be worked out. And then second step, then to know that the cost of the each item, then standard data is to be prepared. Then that means for the particular item, earthwork excavation within initial lead and lift, then how much cost for this ordinary soil or then the hard rock, etc. Then we have some specification details. Nowadays, then we have to adopt some daily rates, scheduled rates. So then that is applied as a standard, and by multiplying with some cost index, then the cost can be worked out. Okay, then at last, then in this process, it is a preparation of abstract cost estimate, and it's provisions of sundry items. What is meaning of sundry? Sundry means another items. Then that means that is not included in the detailed estimate. So then some provisions are made for assessing its cost of the work. So then sundry items or the cost of the sundry items are also in the detailed estimate. Then this is the picture of the approximate picture of the process of the detailed estimates. Then another important terms are to be discussed in this class. Then that is a sanction. Then I think I again repeat that for the taking of any project, for the successful completion of the project, or before taking of any project, then we have to obtain some particular sanction from the government or by the competent authority, from the competent authority. So then we discuss only this type of the sanction, because then this is purely, then these are the common characteristics of the sanctions to be obtained for the all project. But here we discuss only the sanctions related to the government or the public works. So then there are two types of the sanction. The first sanction, that is known as an administrative sanction. What is an administrative sanction? That means that the sanction is getting from the competent authority or administrative authority. Then here, then our competent authority, that is a government. That may be the state government or the central government or the local self-government. Finally, the government, it is the authority, the formal authority. So then such approval is to be obtained from the authority. So then this approval or it's a formal acceptance from the government or from competent authority, that is obtained with the study of the careful analysis of the feasibility study. Then you are very familiar or not very familiar, but then you have got some concept about that in the preparation of the feasibility report by the last class. So then this formal acceptance, that is getting from the competent authority or from the government, that is with respect to the cost and benefit. With respect to the cost and benefit, that means the feasibility report or that preliminary report that is to be submitted by the engineering department to the government, and in which then the cost and benefit are stated in it. So then if government seems that is required for our society, so then they will record the sanction. So then that is a procedure for getting that administrative sanction. So then for getting this administrative sanction, the preliminary estimate and preliminary plan are required. That is a very important. So that is done in the very preliminary stage of any project. That means that is under the pre-investment phase of the project. Okay. Then after getting the administrative sanction or formal acceptance of the government, then department has to prepare the detailed plan, estimates, quantities of the materials and the cost schemes, etc. So then that means that is included in the detailed project report. So that detailed project report is required for getting the technical sanction. Then here the technical committee or then authorized officer within his monetary power of sanction, then he can give that to the technical sanction. Then mainly in this stage, then it examines the technical stability or the technical aspects of the projects. So the technical sanction is obtained on the detailed project report. Then we had a discussion on the factors to be involved in the detailed project report. So then other sanction that is mainly related to the financial management and its financial sanction. So then you have to know some particular terms then which is to be used in this topic. So the budget provision, then all of you know that what is a budget. Then you have heard about that the government budget, state government presented by the state government and the federal government. Then here the budget, it is an estimate. It is an estimate. It is an estimate. Then that means it is an anticipated estimate for receipt and expenditure for the financial year. Actually, it is an annual estimate. That means with this estimate, then we expect some revenue for the government, and then we have a plan to spend that particular money in this financial year or for this coming financial year. So it is an estimate. It is an estimate. So then what is a financial budget provision? Budget provision means it is an allocation of the fund. That means financial allotment for anticipated receipt and expenditure for that financial year. It is known as budget provision. That means then no project can be carried out without the budget provision. Then that means the budget that means before taking any project by any engineering department, then its cost or its estimate that must be included in the budget. So then such a type of the financial allotment for this anticipated receipt and expenditure for that the financial year, that is known as the budget provision. That means providing the particular financial allocation for spending the money for the particular project. So then that is known as the budget provision. So then you know more about its the financial management. Then as a part of the power of the finance department, then that means it is a financial department has full power in all financial matters. So that means to incur expenditure from funds of state and central government. Then that means that power is with the related matters for the expenditure from the funds. Then the government has the different types of the fund, plan fund, non-plan fund, etc. and other type of the special type of the funds. So then how to handle this fund from the state or the central government grant. So the finance department has the full power. So then the particular sanction must be obtained from the competent authority. Then then normally that legislation, and then that will be discussed in the next slide. So that every department has to obtain sanction from the financial department before doing any expenditure. Then that is an essence for it. Then that means no work can be carried out without getting the financial sanction or without getting the concurrency with the finance department. So because the finance department will present the budget for the coming year, and then the sanction must be obtained for the project. Then finally, after having voted, then that the government will assent to the particular bill, and then the particular amount can be spent for the particular project for that by the department. Okay. So let us discuss more about the fiscal management. Fiscal, it is nothing. then that's actual meaning. That is something related to the finance on the public money. Normally, then the government budget, that is a fiscal, as a part of the fiscal management. Then you have understood that the budget it is an approximate estimate. Then that means it's expected revenue, and it is an annual statement about the expected revenue and expected expenditure for each project. So then here, this is a procedure for the fiscal management by the government. The budget is prepared from various departments and coordinated by the finance department. Then I have already explained in the last class. For the preparation of the feasibility report, then we have the different stages of the construction project. The first or the preliminary stage is meant for the preparation of the feasibility report. That means that to convince the public about the utility and the necessity of the project with respect to the cost and benefit. So then for the public works, then there may be some monetary benefits, then some for particular type of the project, then no direct monetary benefit is expected, but then other social and then environmental benefit and other aspects are considered. So then that the project have to be started by the public departments of the government. So then here, for the preparation of the budget presentation, then the finance department will invite the various proposals from the various departments. Then each department will send its proposals along with its preliminary sketch and its cost or the project. So then that will be coordinated by the finance department, and that budget or that annual statement will be presented by the finance minister in our assembly. And after the proposal have been voted, then the one bill is prepared. Then that means a bill is to be provided for the taking the necessary fund to various departments is prepared. Then that is a essential thing, or as a part of the important component in the fiscal management. The bill, that bill is prepared. That bill must be presented in the legislative assembly, and after getting the consent, or that should be passed by the houses, both houses. In the case of the central government, the both houses must be passed, then Parliament and Rajya Sabha. So then at last, then that bill must be obtained and assent of the government. So then that is ready for spending the money. So then that particular amount is allotted to each department in accordance with the state government budget. So then each department can spend money. That means if budget provision is made, then that amount of the money can be spent by each department. So then that is the process involved in the fiscal management system. Okay, then next topic is an organizational chart of the PWD. Then we have discussed the preliminary function, that is planning, and we have discussed more about the different types of the planning, and the preliminary planning and the concessional planning, and finally then we will discuss the detailed discussion for the concession planning then in the next chapter. So then here we will discuss the another important functions of the concession management. Then that is an organization. But then here the one chart, it is a graphical representation showing its duties or the relation with the various officers employed in the organization. Then this is one particular type of the hierarchy. Then this hierarchy will decide then the many things related to the concession or the activities entrusted to the organization. So then here it's a typical chart of the PWD, Public Works Department. Then there may be some variations, the department to department or the state government to state to other states, etc. But then commonly this is the typical chart of the PWD. Then here, then you can see that the administrative head or the technical head, he is the chief engineer of the department. Then for the PWD, there may be the various number of chief engineers, and each chief engineer is interested for doing or for performing the particular type of the functions. Then some chief engineer is interested for carrying out some particular large projects. Then these are the general organization chart of the PWD. From this chart, then you can understand. Then here, sorry. Then this is a head or administrative head, chief engineer. Chief engineer, then he is the administrative and the technical head of the entire department. And for the administrative sake, then this entire jurisdiction is divided into the number of the circuits or the zones. Then SC, then that is interested for carrying out or look after the functions of that the one particular circuit, one circle office. Then he is that circle office is headed by the superintending engineer. So there may be the some superintending or this type of the circuit. So its head is a superintending engineer. And then again, each circle is divided into the number of divisions, number of division offices. So in each division is headed by the executive engineer or the divisional engineer. Then these all executive engineer are to be reported to the superintending engineer, and this all superintending engineer are to be reported to the chief engineer. Finally, the chief engineer is to be reported to the secretary to the government. Then that is the system. So then here, this organizational chart shows that the vertical hierarchy of the officers employed in the organization, and each officer has to perform the particular functions and the responsibility entrusted to him. That will be discussed in the next. So then here, this is the division heads, executive engineer or the divisional engineers, and again each division is subdivided into the subdivision. And each subdivision is headed by assistant executive engineer. That can be read from here. Then this is an abbreviation, the SC. So the superintending engineer, E, executive engineer, AE, assistant executive engineer. Sorry, this is an assistant executive engineer. This is an assistant engineer. Okay, AE is assistant executive engineer. Assistant executive engineer. Please note that. Then there is a correction here. Okay, so then each subdivision is headed by assistant executive engineer. Then again, for the convenience, then each subdivision is divided into the number of section offices. Each section office is headed by the assistant engineer. And here, then the overseers are appointed for assisting the assistant engineer, and also some other staffs. Then first grade overseer and the technical and the ministerial staff are supported for assisting to the assistant executive engineer, and also then some other staff are also under this officer, executive engineer office, and then for all officers, then other supporting staffs are attached with it. Then this is the approximate the picture or which shows that the duties and responsibilities and who is to report and to whom that report is submitted. Then these things will be described with this organizational chart. Then this will help for the understanding of the functioning of any organization. Then here, it is a very important. Then this question may be expected for your examination. Normally, this type of the questions are seen in your question papers. Okay. Then all topics are to be expected for your question paper, because that is all topics are included in your syllabus. Okay, particularly this is very important. This is very simple, and then after having the thorough understanding, then you can easily understand what are the main functions of each offices. Then let us go to the next slides. Okay. Then before discussing the duties and responsibilities of each functions, then the same, it is a power of the sanction. That is very important. Then that is mainly that is meant for the monetary power. Then each officers, depending on its hierarchical status, then every officer has such a type of monetary power for the spending and also for the financial sanction. So then normally for all the large projects, then that duties are entrusted to the senior or the superior officers. Then mainly then you have to understand what is meant by the power of sanction. It is a financial sanction, financial power of the sanction. So then that is depending on the administrative status of each officer, and each officer has some monetary limits, then which will be decided by the government. Then time to time, then that may be changed, or for the various departments, that may be changed. So then that monetary limits are not given here. So then that monetary power are to be engaged by you yourself from the various departments, and you can collect for your interest. So then you can understand more about it, then what is the power of the sanction, etc., as a part of your assignments. Okay, so then it should not be violated. Then another feature in this power of the sanction, then one thing that must be kept in your mind, then that should not be violated without any instruction from high authority. That means then all duties and responsibilities are to be completed within the power of the sanction. Otherwise, that cannot be considered by the government. Then government will look into serious. Then so the proper sanction must be obtained from the superior authority. So then let us look, depending on its our organizational chart, then let us examine then what are the main duties and the responsibilities of the chief engineer. Then we have already discussed about its the hierarchical position of the chief engineer. He is the chief head or the chief person then who is entrusted by the government to look after the all functionaries in his department. So then he is an administrative and technical head. Then and also he is directly responsible to the government. So then all questions must be answered by him. So then he has a full power for carrying out the functions entrusted to the department. So the main duties, then there are many various duties, then some are listed here. So then you have to study at least 8 or 10 points. Then but while studying this type of the points, then the main points will not be forgot. So then these are the main points. So let us listen. Then what are the main points, or what are the main duties and responsibility entrusted to the chief engineer? Then preparation of the annual budget. Then we have discussed the procedure or as a part of the fiscal management. Then this project proposals are to be collected from the various departments to the finance department. Here, for an engineering department, then under the chief engineer jurisdiction, there are many circuits. And under each circle, there are many divisions, and under each division has the many subdivisions, and each subdivision has the many sections. And normally, the all works are directly carried out by the section officer and their staff. So then the project proposals are also originated from the section officers. So then the chief engineer has to collect all information and all reports from this lowest office, and then he has to coordinate on all project proposals for the department, their department, and finally then that is formed as the one consolidated list, and that must be sent to the finance department. Then that is duty is delegated to the chief engineer, and then he has to control on the expenditure and the quality of the work, and also the progress of the work. Then all of you know that for every project, then there are the many constraints on the cost and the quality. and also related to the time. Time is also another constraint. So then these all control that is to be exercised by the chief engineer on the expenditure and the progress of the work. Then formulate important new schemes and seek additional funds from the governments. And that means the overall responsibility is with him. So then all other functionary duties must be discharged by him for the smooth conducting of the all functions entrusted to the department. To exercise administrative and professional, then here the administrative, that means that is an administration. All of you know that it's meaning administration. Administration, as a part of the administration, then establishment of the departments or the staff or their welfares and other things are also to be done by done by him. So then technical control, then he has to advise or he has to inspect and he has to give the proper instruction for carrying out the works for the successful completion of the project. And the periodical inspection as a part of the quality maintenance or as a function entrusted to the chief engineer, then the periodical inspection must be conducted. To exercise control with the accountant general, then because then the while spending the large amount of the money for a large project, then there may be some complications and the problems, and for getting the easy cash flow for carrying out the work in accordance with the plan and the schedule. So then he has to work with concurrently has to work with in a coordinated effort with the accountant general office. So then there may be some financial area, then there are some duties have to be discharged by him. Okay, then another thing is then the second, then that means the superintending engineer. Then superintending engineer is the head of each circle. So then superintending engineer are appointed for helping the chief engineer, then because then overall coordinated effort will be submitted by the chief engineer to the government. So then that's for the administrative sake, then entire jurisdiction is divided into the number of the circles. Then you have already looked in the organizational chart. Then the first chief or the technical head is the chief engineer. Then for assisting the chief engineer, then there may be many circles, and each circle is headed by the superintending engineer. Then what are the main duties and responsibility to the superintending engineer? Then there are many duties. All duties must be performed for getting the coordinated effort of the department. Then that is the common point. But especially then these points are the specific duties must be discharged by the superintending engineer. Administrative units of the department. Then he is responsible to chief engineer for administration and progress of the work. To inspect the various important works in circle and give instructions on quality and progress. To control over schedule of rates and revise it every year. Now at present, then we use the Delhi schedule of rates, and then suitable cost index is incorporated with the schedule. So then today's procedure is entirely different from the old practices. Then we invite the tender through the electronic media, and then we have some e-tender form. But now such a type of the procedure is not included in our syllabus. I think that will be included in the coming syllabus. Okay, to inspect the division office at least once a year to verify the records accounts. And as a part of the inspection, the higher officers are supposed to conduct some inspection. Then that means during the inspection, then he can detect the discrepancies in the previous plan and the progress of the work, and then he can detect some anomalies, and then he can assist the concerned division officers, subdivision officers, and section officers in their works to be performed by them. So then suitable corrections or the advice can be given to the subordinate staffs. so that the works can be executed in a smooth manner. So then inspection, that is very necessary. Then that is a primary duty of the all superior officers. To review the progress of all important works as a part of the inspection, then that must be monitored by the concerned superintending engineer. To submit the reports to the chief engineer about the working of the divisions. The next is then executive engineer. Then here, then each circle is divided into the number of divisions. So then executive units of the department. Actually, the executive department or that executive or divisional engineer is the kingpin of the department. Then his office is a kingpin of the department. So because he has to exercise many control on the cost, time and the quality of the work. So then as part of this or control for these three areas, then he has to verify that no work is taken up without sanction. Then we have already understood that before taking up any project, then we have to obtain, the department has to obtain the AS and TS. And also then for spending any amount of the money from the government treasury or the fund, then that must be made in the budget allocations. Then that is a budget provision. So then that must be checked by the executive engineer. That means that strictly he controls the work progress in accordance with the plan and specification. So then there is no chance for the deviation in it. So then that can be executed through the conduct of some certain inspections or the periodical or the surprise inspection, etc. So then there is some manual or the procedures for each department. So then that officers will do that the duties and responsibility entrusted to them. Okay, then to invite, then might have noticed that some advertisement as a tender notice. Then on behalf of the government, then executive engineer will invite the tender. And then he has the power to accept the tenders, and finally with the completion of the suitable the required procedure, then he can fix up the contracting agency for the execution and to check and issue necessary soundness certificates of the public. Then mainly, then executive engineer is the executive officer. So then he has to conduct the proper supervision for proper guidance for in carrying out the work. So then our every organization has some predefined objectives. So in order to get that the predefined objectives, then he has to conduct such activities. So the soundness, that is very important. That is regarding to the structural stability and the completion of the work according. Otherwise, then that project cannot be used for that particular purpose. So then the purpose must be served by the completion of the project. So then he has to check it, and then he has a power to issue the necessary soundness and certificates for the public, and to pass the bills for the work done or supplies made. Then because the large works or the public works are carried out by the contracting agency. So then through the tendering procedure and by adopting the suitable required procedures, then he can entrust the particular work to the contractor through this standard procedure. So then after carrying out the work, or depending on the schedule, or depending on the terms and conditions mentioned in the contract agreement, the bills are to be passed. Bill means it is an amount shown due to the contract. Then that means that particular work was completed. So then with that is the agreed rate, then the cost can be worked out, and depending on the type of the contract agreement, then amount is to be disbursed to the contractor. So then the executive engineer has such power. And to maintain the correct accounts, that generally, then we can state that then for all the areas, administrative, financial, and technical, then for each area, then executive engineer has its own duties and responsibilities. These are the very important duties must be performed by the executive engineer. There are many duties. There are some list are sorted here. So then to the sanction revised estimate, then you can read. If you have any doubt, then you can raise the questions to your teachers and also to to me. Okay, so then I will clarify. So then because there are a lot of the list of the activities, I think then you can understand then what is its meaning. But before reading, then you have to understand the basic concept and the organizational chart. For what purpose then organizational hierarchy is set up. So then that means that we have already discussed it. It is on the basis of the principle of organizing. Then that means then any individual cannot do everything. So due to the magnitude of the work, that must be divided. So if there is some division of the work, then that must be coordinated. Then that is the principle behind its organization chart. Then by conceiving that the idea, then you can read then the duties and responsibilities for the each officer. Then okay, then these are the main duties. Then I will give the PPT to you, so then you can easily understand then what points of the duties or the responsibilities of the engineer. So then mainly then in case of regarding the accounts, to maintain the accounts of higher charges for equipment and machineries, then PWD can give some equipment and machinery, large machinery on the higher basis. So then that account is also to be maintained by the divisional officer. Then he is assisted by the divisional accountant. So then he can look to the matters regarding this account sections. So to compile the materials at site accounts, then this all some terms are not familiar to you, so then don't be bothered about it. Then because through the subsequent studies, then you will study then what are the important terms and then what is its actual meaning for these terms. Then that cannot be explained within this short period. So then that is discarded in this session. So then this all types of the terms will be described in the appropriate sections. Okay, to write off, to take the action to write off unserviceable and obsolete articles. In the case of the stores, there may be the lot of the articles or the stock materials. So then some materials cannot be used for its current use, that due to that the technology changes, then that means that may become as an obsolete one, and some machineries and other stored materials may be unserviceable. So then in case of the write-off, then that process is conducted by conducting some survey report. Then that means assessing the present position of the materials and the plants and equipments, etc. And finally, then the write-off that can be, that article of the items can be disposed from the store. So then these are the other points must be delegated by, must be discharged by the executive engineer. Preparation of the completion of the reports to maintain contractors' ledgers and work register, that will be discussed what is contractor ledger and work register, etc. So the measurement, then normally after carrying out all construction activities, the measurement will be done by the assistant engineer. So then he has to check it, then whether it is correct or not. So then that type of the check measurement is to be done by the executive engineer. The project proposal to draw money and disperse salary and other petty cash equipments. So then assistant executive engineer, next officer is assistant executive engineer. The mainly subdivisions are subdivisional officers are established for assisting the executive engineer. So then for the convenience sake, each subdivision is headed by then one subdivisional engineer or assistant executive engineer. So then this work nature is similar to that the executive engineer, but then the certain load is entrusted to the particular subdivision. Then that means that he has to conduct the check and measure 50% of the works of every section. But in the case of the executive engineer, only 10%, because then he has to conduct the check and measurement for the number of the subdivisions under him. Then this assistant executive engineer has to focus only for his subdivision. So then here, okay, then I will finish. Okay, then checking measurement and the quality and progress of the work, to control and guide of section officer working under him, to maintain initial accounts. Then you can read, then the points are presented in very simple. So then after getting the PPT, then you can read it. Okay. Then duties and responsibility of assistant executive engineer. Actually, an assistant executive engineer is a section officer. Section officer. Then he has to conduct. Then is part of the duties of responsibility assistant executive engineer. Okay. Then the duties and responsibility of assistant engineer. Each subdivision is again divided into number of sections, and each section is under the charge of the section officer or the assistant engineer. Then main duties can be categorized on the duties on works, duties on stores, and duties on accounts. Let us look then what are the main duties of the works. Then because he is an immediate and direct in charge of his section, so then he has is responsible for the supervision in accordance with the plan and specification and other departmental procedure. And then after carrying out the work must be measured, and that must be recorded in the measurement book. And also some materials are supplied by the department, so then that also recorded in the measurement book. And then he has to supervise the daily progress of the work, and he has to prepare the estimates, maintenance or repairs work, and he must also see that no expenditure beyond sanction and allotment of the fund. And that means within that the constraint, the work must be completed in a successful manner, and he has to maintain all the buildings in his jurisdiction. Then duties on works that be continued. Then he has to take some notes. Then during the inspection of the higher officers, then higher officers will instruct or will give some direction for then augmenting the quality of the construction. So then that must be obtained in the site order book. Then he has to conduct the supervision or the inspection accompanying with the higher superior officers. So then he has to arrange the proper materials, plans and labor for maintaining the progress of the works, and he has to submit the periodical progress, and then he has to enforce the terms and conditions of the contract, and he has to maintain the accounts of labor and tools and the plants and duties on stores. Then here he has to take the safe custody of the material, and then all was related to that the distribution and the disposal, etc. And then he has to maintain all accounts related to the stock, tools and plants of his stock, and he has to prepare the submit all periodical returns of the stock. He has to stock and store the material. Then that will be discussed in the stores organization. Then that's in such a in that session. Then we will discuss more about. And before that, you have to read then the points covered in here. And duties responsibility, duties on accounts. The same thing can be read out. Then the remaining things will be explained. Then unfortunately, that can be that cannot be completed within this short time frame. So then that can be discussed in the next session. Okay. Then before it's a discussion, then you have to read. Then the points covered in this slides or in this class. Then that will help for the simple explanation or the brief explanations. Okay, thank you. These are some of this that we have discussed. These things here. Okay. Okay. Sir.
Hello.
Okay, time കഴിഞ്ഞു തോന്നുന്നു. എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡിസ്കഷൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചെയ്യാം. ബാക്കി ഞാൻ ഇതിന്റെ ലാസ്റ്റുള്ള റിമൈനിങ് പാർട്സ് നമുക്ക് അടുത്ത ക്ലാസ്സിൽ ബ്രീഫായിട്ട് ചെയ്യാം. അതിന് മുമ്പ് ഈ PPT അവർക്ക് കൊടുക്കാം. അപ്പൊ അവർക്കൊന്ന് ജസ്റ്റ് ഒന്ന് റീഡ് ചെയ്യാലോ മെയിൻ പോയിന്റ്സ് ഏതാണ്, എന്നിട്ട് ഡിസ്കഷൻ
ചോദിക്കാം.
ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ.
ചാറ്റില് ഡൗട്ട്സ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ല മാം?
ഇല്ല, അതിന് ഒരു ലിസണിങ് സ്കില്ല് നമുക്ക് വളർത്തണം. പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഈ സബ്ജക്റ്റ് പ്രശ്നം എന്ന് വെച്ചാലേ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ മാനേജ്മെന്റ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ വളരെ വാസ്റ്റ് ആണ്. ഞാൻ കുട്ടികളോടായിട്ട് പറയാണ്. അപ്പൊ എന്താ വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് മെനി പോയിന്റ്സ് ആർ ടു ബി ഡിസ്കസ്ഡ്. സോ ദെൻ വി ഹാവ് ടു അല്ലെങ്കിൽ യു ഹാവ് ടു നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കുട്ടികൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യണമെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് ഇതിന്റെ ഒരു കൺസെപ്റ്റ് ആദ്യം മനസ്സിലാക്കണം. ആ കൺസെപ്റ്റ് പിടികിട്ടി കഴിഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ പിന്നെ നമുക്ക് വായിക്കുമ്പോൾ ചെറിയ ചെറിയ പോയിന്റ്സ് കിട്ടും. പിന്നെ ചില ടേംസ് മാത്രമാണ് ഇതിൽ പ്രശ്നം വരുള്ളൂ. ആ ടേംസ് നമുക്ക് സബ്സീക്വന്റ് ക്ലാസ്സിൽ കൂടെ കുറേശ്ശെ മനസ്സിലാവും. അതിനു മുമ്പ് നമുക്കൊരു പ്രിലിമിനറി അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിങ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുക എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. Okay, then one student is asked to explain the organizational charts. Let me explain. Okay, then organizational chart of PW എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുന്നത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഇതൊരു ഗ്രാഫിക്കൽ റെപ്രസെന്റ് ആണ്. നിങ്ങൾക്കറിയാം ഇതിൽ ഓരോ ബോക്സ് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാല് ഒരു പർട്ടിക്കുലർ പർപ്പസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്, അതായത് ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ മീൻസ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് എ ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് ദ പീപ്പിൾ ഹു ആർ വർക്കിംഗ് ഫോർ ഗെറ്റിംഗ് കോമൺ ഗോൾ. ഇവിടെ PWD എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് ഓർഗനൈസേഷന്റെ മെയിൻ ഒബ്ജക്റ്റീവ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് എന്താണ്? ടു accomplish the project, to accomplish one particular construction projects. അപ്പൊ ചില നമ്മുടെ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിനെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ആ പ്രോജക്റ്റ് ചിലപ്പോൾ മെയിൻ്റനൻസ് പ്രോജക്റ്റുകളാവാം, റിപ്പയർ പ്രോജക്റ്റുകളാവാം, എന്തെങ്കിലും ആവട്ടെ. ഏത് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിന്റെ ആ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ ഏതാണ് അവരുടെ മെയിൻ ഒബ്ജക്റ്റീവ് എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് അച്ചീവ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്. അപ്പൊ അതിന് ചില ഫങ്ഷൻസുകൾ നമുക്ക് നടത്തണം. അപ്പൊ ഇതിന്റെ മാഗ്നിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, ഇതിന്റെ വർക്ക്, നമ്മൾ ഡ്യൂട്ടീസ് ആൻഡ് റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി കുറെ ഉള്ളത് കൊണ്ട് എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നു, ഓരോരുത്തരുടെയും എക്സ്പെർട്ടൻസി അനുസരിച്ചും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അതിന്റെ മാഗ്നിറ്റ്യൂഡ് അനുസരിച്ച് ഡിവിഷൻസ് ചെയ്യണം. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. ഇതിന് ഒരു ഓവറോൾ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിന്റെ ഹെഡായിട്ട് വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്ന ആളാണ് ചീഫ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. ഈസ് മോസ്റ്റ് റെസ്പോൺസിബിൾ ഫോർ പേഴ്സൺ ഫോർ the organization. That means ഇതിന്റെ ഓർഗനൈസേഷനിൽ എന്ത് സംഭവിച്ചാലും എന്തൊക്കെ ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ എല്ലാ ഡയറക്ഷൻ, പ്രോപ്പർ ഡയറക്ഷൻ that will be from the chief engineer. He is the administrator and he has to report to the government. He is directly responsible to the government through the concerned secretary to the finance minister, and finally then that will be related to the government. So the chief engineer, appo chief engineer entire ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റിന്റെ ഹെഡ് ആണ്. അതിന് അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ട് സൂപ്രണ്ടിങ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന തിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ ഇതിലിവിടെ കാണുന്നത് ഒരു ഹൈറാർക്കിയാണ് കാണുന്നത്. അതായത് ഇതാരാണ്? സുപ്പീരിയർ ഓഫീസർ, ചീഫ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ കീഴിൽ കുറച്ച് സർക്കിൾസ് ഉണ്ട്. ആ സർക്കിള്, ഓരോ സർക്കിളും അതിന്റെ ഹെഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സൂപ്രണ്ടിങ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ ആണ്. ഇനി സൂപ്രണ്ടിങ് എഞ്ചിനീയറിന് ഏൽപ്പിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ചുമതലകൾ അസിസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എഞ്ചിനീയേഴ്സിന് വെച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. അത് ഓരോ ഡിവിഷണൽ ഓഫീസിന്റെ ഹെഡുകളായിട്ടാണ് വെച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. അപ്പൊ അങ്ങനെ നമ്പർ ഓഫ് ഡിവിഷൻ, ഇതിൽ നമ്പർ ഒന്നും വളരെ പെർമനന്റ് ആയിട്ട് ഫിക്സ്ഡ് അല്ല. അത് ഡിപ്പെൻഡിങ് ഓൺ ദ മാഗ്നിറ്റ്യൂഡ് ഓഫ് ദ വർക്ക് ടു ബി പെർഫോംഡ് ബൈ ദ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ്. സോ ദെൻ ദാറ്റ് വിൽ ബി ഡിസൈഡഡ് ബൈ ദ ഗവൺമെന്റ്. ഓക്കെ, ദെൻ ഹിയർ ഈ സർക്കിളിനെ പല ഡിവിഷൻസ് ആയിട്ട് തിരിക്കുന്നു. ഓരോ ഡിവിഷനും എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഡിവിഷണൽ എഞ്ചിനീയർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നു. ഇനി ഓരോ ഡിവിഷനിലുള്ളവർക്ക് ഈ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ എന്ന് പറയുന്നതാണ് കിങ് പിൻ ഓഫ് ദ ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ്. പുള്ളിയാണ് എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് ഓഫീസർ. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരെല്ലാം അഡ്മിനിസ്ട്രേറ്റീവിന്റെ സുപ്പീരിയർ ഇൻസ്പെക്ഷനും അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഒരു ഓവറോൾ കൺട്രോൾ ഈസ് എക്സസൈസ്ഡ് ഓൺ ടു ദിസ് ഓഫീസസ്. ആൻഡ് ദെൻ ദ ഫങ്ഷൻസ് ഓഫ് ദ ഓൾ കൺസ്ട്രക്ഷൻ ആക്ടിവിറ്റീസ് ഡയറക്ട്ലി റെസ്പോൺസിബിൾ ടു ദ എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എഞ്ചിനീയർ. നമുക്കറിയാം, ഒരു വർക്കിൽ മാൽ പ്രാക്ടീസ് വന്നു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഡിപ്പെൻഡിങ് ഓൺ ഇറ്റ്സ് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ഓഫ് ദ വർക്ക് ആർക്കൊക്കെയാണ് സസ്പെൻഷൻ കിട്ടുക എന്നുള്ളത് നോക്കിയാൽ മതി. ചെറിയ മൈനർ സാധനത്തിന് ഓവർസിയറിനാവും കിട്ടുക, പിന്നത്തെ വരുന്നത് എയ്ക്ക് കിട്ടും, പിന്നത്തെ വരുമ്പോൾ AEക്ക് കിട്ടും. വലിയ പ്രശ്നങ്ങളാണ് വരുന്നതെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ പണിഷ്മെന്റ് ആർക്കാണ് കിട്ടുന്നത്? എക്സിക്യൂട്ടീവ് എഞ്ചിനീയർക്ക്. അതിന്റെ അർത്ഥം എന്താണ്?
സർ, നമ്മൾ ക്ലോസ് ചെയ്യേണ്ട സമയമായി. അടുത്ത സെഷൻ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യണം.
നോ പ്രോബ്ലം.
അപ്പൊ ഇന്നത്തെ സെഷൻ ഇവിടെ എൻഡ് ചെയ്യാണ്. അടുത്ത സെഷൻ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള സമയമായി. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഇനി ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾ കൺസേൺഡ് ടീച്ചേഴ്സിനോട് ചോദിക്കാം. സ്ലൈഡും അതേപോലെ സ്റ്റാഫിന് കൊടുക്കുന്നതായിരിക്കും.
ഞാനിപ്പോ വിടും. അത് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ എന്നോടും ഡയറക്റ്റ് ചോദിക്കാം. ഫോൺ നമ്പർ